Cool. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Mad Dogs podcast here, where you're going to get all your college football info for week 0, and we make our season predictions.
Playoff and conference predictions, and teams that we think are going to disappoint in the AP poll, and teams we think they're going to excel and overcome some expectations and be a little higher than what America thinks.
We did all our season research so that you don't have to get the best content here. I'm Eli for all your football info.
And I'm Grady for football info that's a little biased, maybe.
So starting off, Grady, what are your conference championship predictions? Who plays in the championship games and who wins?
Which one do you want to start off with?
Let's start with the powerhouse conference of the ACC.
The ACC. Okay. I got Florida State and Clemson going in there. I think Miami, you just got to prove yourself first because they're ranked right now. AP preseason, they're where? 19. They're 19, and they're always ranked top 25. You're always going to give them a 25 ranking, and they always kind of disappoint. And yeah, recruiting is one thing, but playing on the field's another thing, and they haven't ever really proven themselves in the past couple of years. So that's why I'm not putting them in the ACC championship game, and a lot of people have them there. But and then I got Florida State beating Clemson because Dabo Swinney, I really like him, but he's got to adapt. He's got to adapt because all the transfer portal stuff and he's not getting involved in it, and everyone else is, so he's kind of staying behind. He's got a solid program, and the way he runs it is good, but I don't think he's going to get past 9 to 10 wins with that. I don't think he's going to be able to really get elite without using the portal.
Yeah, I really agree with a lot of that. I've got Florida State and Clemson in my championship game also. They play during the regular season. I have Clemson taking that matchup, winning that game, but I also have Clemson winning again in the ACC championship game. Dabo's out to prove himself this year. Clemson's still a good squad, and honestly, the biggest factor being Florida State, they lost almost their entire defense. They lost most of their offense from last year. I still think that Mike Norvell's got a great squad down there in Tallahassee, but Clemson takes the ACC championship this year and gets the playoff bid in this team.
I think what happened with them last year does not go unnoticed, though. I think they definitely will have a chip on their shoulder and be kind of still just fired up. I know that's late in the season, the ACC championship game, but just thinking about they did what they were supposed to do. They won all their regular season games and didn't make the playoffs. I just feel like they got to be fired up for that.
Yeah. So who do you have in your Big 12 championship game now?
Big 12, first off, this is America's conference. If you're a fan of traditional college football, early 2000s, This is the conference to pay attention to. It's got a ton of teams that are all pretty equal. And first off, they use high school recruiting as their number one. And right now with the portal, a lot of people are leaning on the portal, and that's just like not how it's been traditionally. And the only team that actually does that is Colorado right now that really leans on the portal there. But all the other teams, it's solid. It's going to be a great conference to watch. And I have Utah and K-State going in there, and I got Utah coming out and winning. I got the first year in the Big 12. I got them winning it all with Cam Rising as the quarterback. That's like an ultra veteran. He's been there. Yeah. He's been there for like 6 or 7. I think this is the 7th. This might be his 7th year. This might be his 7th year there. And then Kyle Whittingham, a solid coach. You know, they have a really good defense, really aggressive. Their whole team, they play hard. Like you can just see they have grit. So I got them coming in there and beating K-State. Yeah, so that's mine.
Yeah, fun fact about the Big 12 is they have 3 of the 5 oldest quarterbacks in the country this year. Cam Rising is the oldest at 25 years old. Then you've got Alan Bowman of Oklahoma State at 24 years old. And then I don't remember the other guy. He's not a championship contender, so he wasn't important to me. But I've got Kansas State in my championship game as well. But I also have the team that probably does the most with the least amount of talent in the entire country. In the talent composite for the season put out by ESPN, they came in at number 53, and they have the second most wins in the Big 12 over the last 20 years, Oklahoma State Cowboys. The Cowboys always manage to overperform with whatever talent they have. I've got them losing to Kansas State in the regular season, and I've got them losing to K-State again in the Big 12 championship game. I love Avery Johnson, the talent, the potential that he has at quarterback there. And I love Chris Kleiman as the head coach of that program in the direction that he's taking them in. I think that K-State is a serious team to watch out for this year, and that it'll be a lot of fun in the Big 12.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the Big 12. It's just going to be so fun to watch. I mean, there's like 5 or 6 teams that are all kind of in the race there, you know. And just recently, UCF has climbed the Vegas odds. They're like 4 or 5 all of a sudden. They came out of nowhere, and so I'm really excited to see them play too.
Yeah, and another team to watch out there for sure is definitely Arizona. I love seeing the potential that they had in that bowl game against Oklahoma to end this last season. Noah Fafita, before the game, there were a lot of ESPN predictors saying that he looked like the next Kyler Murray and that his receiver looked like a DeAndre Hopkins type receiver. And I didn't believe it until I saw it. I thought you need to hold off. Kyler Murray was a Heisman winner. He's playing in the NFL now. Same with DeAndre Hopkins, was an absolute star at receiver. But those two guys did not disappoint. They've got all the potential in the world there coming back, and that is certainly a team to watch to make some upsets and make their way to the championship game.
For sure.
So who do you have coming out of the Big Ten this year?
Big Ten, for me, honestly, this is the most obvious pick for me. Just looking at the Vegas odds as well, it's Ohio State, Oregon, and it's everyone else. So I'm just running with that. I have Ohio State going in there beating Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. I really like Oregon too, though. It's year one in the Big Ten, so I think it'll be a little shift. You know, I don't think it's as drastic as OU Texas having to join the SEC. I don't think it'll be that big of a shift, but man, I love Dylan Gabriel as the quarterback, so I really like them. But man, Ohio State, Ryan Day, I think it's his year to get the big one. Everyone says he can't win the big one, he can't do it. It's like year 5 now. I think it's their time. I think they're going to win the Big Ten. And I think they're going to get it with about 1 or 2 losses. I don't think they're going to struggle too much this year. And yeah, that's my Big Ten prediction.
Yeah, I completely agree with the Oregon take. I think that they're one of the most talented teams in the country. I think that they might be in possession of the best quarterback in the country. Dylan Gabriel, only 4,300 passing yards away from being the number 1 passing yardage leader in the country in the history of the sport. That is absolutely insane to think about, that we may be able to witness one of those crazy records being broken this year. My other 2 teams that I think are clearly at the top of the Big Ten are Michigan and Ohio State, like you said. And I really just think about this whole process, and I love Oregon and what they have. I think they're going to be special on offense. I think they'll be a top 10 program. And I also think that they're going to have a top 15, top 20 defense to go along with what Dan Lanning's doing there in Oregon. Mm-hmm. So I think that they're going to be in the Big Ten title game. And then for Michigan and Ohio State, I think that they're both going to have outstanding defenses. But I really just had to ask myself about the culture of both of those programs. And I struggle with Ryan Day because I feel like Ohio State has kind of gotten more soft over the years. And that they can't hang with Michigan in that tough brand of football that they've been playing. So I actually picked Michigan to beat Ohio State. And it also had to do with the quarterback situation. Michigan may be unproven at quarterback this year, but I know what Ohio State has. They've got a backup that got beat out at K-State, and he's just going to be a game manager. I don't think he's the guy to go and win a big game for you. So I'm picking Michigan and Oregon to be in the Big Ten title game, and I've got Oregon beating Michigan in that game.
I'm so excited there's no divisions in the Big Ten now, because that actually gives an opportunity to have a great Big Ten conference game. Usually it's Ohio State, Michigan, some Joe Schmo, freaking Wisconsin or whatever.
Exactly.
And I'm so excited for it to actually be the 2 best teams. The whole divisions in general never made sense to me because they were never balanced. Even in the SEC it wasn't balanced. So I'm so excited to actually see a legit Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. The Big 12 always played a round-robin schedule with no divisions, and you always got to see the 2 top teams going at it at the end of the year. And like you just said, the SEC is the same way this year with the addition of Oklahoma and Texas coming into that power conference. So what's your take on that conference for the year?
On the SEC?
Yeah.
I actually have Georgia going in there and beating Ole Miss for the championship game. So with the SEC, I think you got Big 12 number 1, hardest to predict because there's so many teams. But then right behind them, I think it's the SEC, because I think there's a solid 4 to 5 teams that I could legit see in the championship game. So obviously the deepest conference. There's so many teams that have a chance to go all the way and actually win the title. But I really think Georgia, has reloaded really well at the portal. They actually returned 3 of its top 5 tacklers from last year, and it's one of those teams that can reload at an elite level every year.
Absolutely.
There's not a lot of teams that can do that, and Ole Miss I don't believe is one of those teams. I think there's a lot of teams that will build up and wait for their shot year over year, and then have one year like, okay, this is the year we're going to attack. I think Ole Miss is one of those teams, just like how Washington did a couple years ago. And so I can really see them running into the SEC championship game and, with only one loss. But I really do believe Georgia's still going to get the better of them, and they're going to end up winning.
Absolutely. And I love what you said about the absolute competition in the SEC. You've got teams like Tennessee, Missouri, LSU, Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas, Georgia, all of them competing and thinking that they deserve a spot in the playoffs and potentially a spot in the conference championship game. And each one of those teams is going to have to go through an absolute brutal schedule in the SEC this year, which is going to be a lot of fun to watch. But I think the 2 teams that are just a little bit ahead of everyone else is Ole Miss and Georgia in this conference this year. And I don't know what's going to happen in the conference, but I know that Georgia is the safest pick in my mind.
Yep.
I've got them winning every single game. I figure they'll be a favored in every game, potentially favored by double digits in every single game they play this year, and that includes the game against Ole Miss. I have Georgia going 12-0 during the regular season, and Ole Miss I have going 11-1 with their lone loss coming to Georgia, and they get to meet again in the SEC championship game in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Now, Ole Miss lost this game the first time, but I've got them coming back for revenge with Lane Kiffin, and I think they take down the Bulldogs in the SEC championship to win the SEC this year.
Wow. All right, I think we're going to get into our playoff predictions now. Do you want to start with that?
Let's do it. For my playoff predictions, I'll start with the top 4 for you guys. It's Oregon as the 1 seed, Ole Miss takes the 2 seed, K-State takes the 3 seed, and Clemson gets the 4 seed. Those are your 4 highest ranked conference champions. And then next up, this year we have the first year of the 12-team playoff. And so there's going to be 7 at-large bids as well as 1 group of 5 champion that gets an at-large bid to come into the playoff. So I'll start with that spot. The group of 5 champion that I've got coming in is Memphis at 11-1. Their only loss is to Florida State on the season. They beat Tulane to end the year, and I think they're going to have a great season this year. Then at number 5, I've got the team that went 12-0 in the regular season, the only team in the country that did that, the Georgia Bulldogs, coming back for revenge. Then I've got the Big Ten runner-up with Michigan. I think that they go at 11-1, 11-2 after that championship game, and they're looking to go and make a run in this playoff. And then followed up with that is Oklahoma at 10-2 in the year. I think Jackson Arnold's really going to progress well. I think the offensive line is going to do well enough for them to go ahead and win some of those big key games. Bill Bedenbaugh is one of the best offensive line coaches in the country. I know that they're great in all the skill positions. There's no worry there at running back or receiver. And then I think they have one of the best defenses in the country. It may not be that way statistically because they're playing so many great offenses, but I think they'll still have a top 20 statistically defense. And then followed up with that, I've got Notre Dame at 11-1 getting into the playoff. I've got this low because they do have a relatively weak schedule, but they will still be the last team in the top 8 to get a home field playoff game this year. So Georgia, Michigan, Oklahoma, and Notre Dame all hosting a home playoff game. Then first up, Notre Dame home playoff game, getting to play host to the Ohio State University. They're still one of the top teams in the country, even if they don't win the Big Ten this year. And they're going to have a lot of fun in the playoff. Next up, I've got your Big 12 runner-up, Oklahoma State University. They had a great season. They've really overperformed, and they're going to have a lot of fun in this playoff as well. And then the last and final spot, the 11 seed, it's going to go to the last SEC team that finished 10-2 on the year, your Tennessee Volunteers. Only losses being to Oklahoma and Georgia, and also having wins against Alabama and other notable programs. What's your 12 teams look like?
But so for my auto bid predictions for the Power 4 conferences, I have Ohio State as number 1. I really think they have a clearer path to be number 1 than Georgia does. Then I think Georgia's number 2. And I think Florida State's going to come out of the ACC. And then I have Utah coming out of the Big 12. And then for my my at-large bids, I think Ole Miss being the SEC runner-up, I think since they made the championship game, they're still going to be number 5. And the number 5 seed, me and Eli had an agreement with, is basically the best seed to be in. Because you play number 12, and then you got to play number 4, which is the auto bid. So that's going to be usually the Big 12 championship, maybe ACC. But you as a number 5 seed, you have a clear way to the Final Four. Like, there's not much in your way. Yeah. So I really like Ole Miss being right there, and I actually have Ole Miss going to the Final Four because of that.
And especially this year, with all the great teams that there are throughout college football, there's a very real possibility that you have 2 powerhouse programs around that 8 and 9 spot, which would be where the 1 seed has to play their first game, and a potential upset for that 5 seed if they're able to win their game against the 4 seed to get to play a lower seed like an 8 or 9 seed.
Yeah, being the runner-up at the SEC really is not a bad gig, which is kind of interesting because it kind of gives you do I even want to make it to the championship game? Because if they penalize losing your conference game, if they penalize that and you become a 9-3 team, and the number 3 in the SEC is 2 losses, you almost don't want to make it to the championship game. It's really interesting there. But moving along, at the number 9 seed, I have Clemson, and number 8, I have Alabama, which is that's a massive game, especially the late 2010s, 2017, 18. They had basically a rivalry because they played every year in the championship game. But I got Bama coming on top of it. I think Kalen DeBoer, I don't think there's as much turnaround as people really think there's going to be. I think Nick Saban leaving obviously is a big deal, but they really recruited really well. A lot of people think DeBoer can't recruit the SEC, they can't recruit the South. If you just look at the statistics, that's just not true. He's really recruiting really well. So I have them being Clemson. And then the next one, I have number 11, OU, and number 6, Oregon. And I got Oregon coming up on top. I think Oregon's, like you, really big on Oregon. And I am too, but I just don't think they're going to make it, all the way. But I definitely have them beating OU with Dylan Gabriel as the quarterback. Well, even with Oregon, I would say they don't need a superstar quarterback because they have so many key playmakers, and they just need a good quarterback to get the ball out. But they have a superstar quarterback. So that makes you think, oh, wow, what's going to be next for them? So I definitely have them beating Oklahoma and moving on to play number 3, Florida State. After that, I have number 10, Notre Dame, and number 7, Penn State. First off, wide out at Penn State for a playoff game.
That would be crazy.
That's crazy. And Notre Dame coming in there, you can't script that. That's crazy. All of these games, all these home games, Ole Miss at home, Bama at home, and Oregon at home. I mean, this is the part of the playoffs that I'm in agreement with the 12 team because there's just so many awesome matchups. NIL and money, but all that stuff kind of gets aside once it's kickoff because these games are so crucial and so fun. The next level of the bracket after that, I have Ole Miss and Utah playing, and I have Ole Miss beating Utah. I think, like I said, the number 5 seed such a great seed to be in, and you have to play the champion of the Big 12, which not undermining Utah, but it's just a different level in the SEC, and I think the Ole Miss is going to get it done, and so they're going to move on to the Final Four. And then I have Bama and Ohio State playing, which is another just massive matchup that kind of reminds you of years past. But I still think Ohio State's going to get that done. Next, I have Oregon and Florida State. I got Oregon winning that. Even the number 6 seed is also not a bad seed to be in either. Just how number 5 is really, really good. 6 is, still pretty good. And they play the ACC champion, which I have as Florida State. And I think Oregon will get that done as well. Then I have Penn State and Penn State, which was number 7, and they moved on to play number 2, Georgia. And I got Georgia winning that. So then my Final Four is literally just the SEC championship game and the Big Ten championship game, just switched. So you have Ole Miss and Ohio State playing, and Oregon and Georgia playing, which kind of makes you think, why did we just have the playoffs? Why did we just have a 12-team playoff if the final 4 teams are just the 4 best teams that we already knew that before the playoff happened?
Why not
And
just make it like the NFL, where there's 2 divisions with the Big Ten and SEC?
Yep, it's really, it makes you think, because it's like you just risked 2 extra games, a ton more injuries, and for what? For the same teams to come out,
3 for the conference champions.
Yeah, that's right. And
or conference runner-ups, I mean.
Yeah, and then I got Ohio State beating Ole Miss, and then I got Georgia beating Oregon, and then I got Ohio State and Georgia in the championship game, and I got Ohio State coming on top. Again, I really think it's Ryan Day's time. I think it's their time to prove everyone wrong. And Jim Knowles is back from last year from their defense, and he really changed their defense last year, and it looks really good. Will Howard, again, like you said, is not going to be a superstar, but I also don't think they need a superstar quarterback. I think they have so much talent in the receiver room and in the running back room that they really don't need. They need him to play like B+, I think. I think if Will Howard plays B+, they're winning it all. So, yeah, that's my playoff bracket.
I think that there's a lot of absolute truth in all of that, especially with Ohio State just needing Will Howard to play like a B+ in those games. I think in my bracket, I've got the 5 Georgia Bulldogs going against 12 Memphis. And sorry, Memphis, we're not getting the upset of the century this year. I've got Georgia moving on in that one. And then 6 Michigan playing host to 11 Tennessee with Josh Heupel as the head coach. And I've got an upset here. I think at this point in time, Nico, I can't say his last name. I'm sorry, Nico. But he's not just a first-year starting quarterback at this point. He ran through a gauntlet of the SEC. They had a great year. This is a veteran quarterback that knows what it takes to win on the road in big games. And I've got Tennessee upsetting Michigan in this game to move on. Then in 7 versus 10, we've got Bedlam. This is Oklahoma State. Last year, we thought we had the last Bedlam matchup in Stillwater. But the Cowboys were able to take advantage of the Sooners having a very rough day on offense. They may have gotten the good no call with a PI that OU fans don't want to talk about anymore, but that's not the case this year. Oklahoma's the better team all around. They've got more talent. They've got a better defense. They're more disciplined. I've got the Sooners taking down the Cowboys. And then 8 versus 9, Ohio State travels to Notre Dame in South Bend. And like you said, Will Howard just has to play like a B+ game in order to win. I think Ohio State's got more depth all over the field. Give me Ohio State in that game. And that's going to set up a rematch from one of our regular season matchups in one of our New Year's 6 bowl games. Oregon, the 1 seed, will play number 9, Ohio State. And I don't think that Will Howard plays like a B+ game. I saw him at K-State. I saw him in Stillwater. He did not play very well against the Cowboys. He has games where he's just off and doesn't play all that well. And I think Oregon takes down Ohio State to move on to the semifinal matchup in this game. Next up is Clemson versus Georgia. And I think Georgia is just the best team in the country. They've got the most talent all around. They've got solid quarterback play where you just have to not lose the game there. And I've got Georgia moving on and beating Clemson. So far, that is our first conference champion going down, and it's the ACC champ. Next up is number 2, Ole Miss, going against number 11, Tennessee. And these 2 teams did not meet in the regular season. And this will be their first matchup, the SEC champ versus an up-and-comer Tennessee. I think Ole Miss takes this game. I love Nico at quarterback. I think he's going to have a great year. But Ole Miss still has the better quarterback with Jackson Dart. And Lane Kiffin is an offensive mastermind. I think they win that game. I think it'll be an absolute shootout because I'm not sold on Ole Miss's defense. But they do win this one. Next up is another rematch from the past. You've got the Big 12 champ K-State taking on number 7 Oklahoma. And OU lost to K-State the last time these 2 teams matched up. They had the game in hand, and they just let it slip away from them. And I don't think that happens again. I love Avery Johnson at quarterback, but I think Brent Venables and that defense are just going to be absolutely suffocating to that K-State offense. I think they win a tough-nosed football game. I think OU wins by a score of about 24-17 in this one. Not a whole lot of scoring, but Oklahoma moves on to the semifinals to go against Ole Miss. And this game is really interesting. You have an offensive mastermind in Lane Kiffin, who doesn't like to play a whole lot of defense historically, going against Brent Venables, who is a defensive mastermind, who really let go of the offensive reins this last year. He gave it over to his coordinators, and they've still got a tough-minded, just a physical approach to the offense. And I think that Oklahoma is going to win this game against Ole Miss. I think that Jackson Dart is going to put up some serious numbers. I do think Ole Miss is going to score a lot of points. I just think Oklahoma is going to score more, and they're going to get a stop when it really matters, cause a turnover somewhere where it's really important. And then on the other side of the bracket, you've got Georgia, Oregon. And I've been saying it this whole time. I love Oregon. I think Dylan Gabriel is going to win the Heisman and break records this year. But Georgia is still my pick. They've got the best defense in the country. They've got talent all over the field that nobody in the country can match. They're going to the national championship game. And for those of you that don't know, this year the national championship game is in the heart of Texas. And every year so far, Georgia's dynasty, they've had the national championship game in Atlanta, Georgia. Everyone was always crying about, they have home field advantage. Mm-hmm. That's not the case this year. Oklahoma basically gets a home game against Georgia in the heart of Texas. This is where they go to recruit. This is where they play football all the time. This is their second home pretty much. And I've got Oklahoma taking down the Georgia Bulldogs in the national championship game in a wild finish to the season.
Bold pick, but I respect it. I definitely don't think that was a biased pick either. Oklahoma's a pretty legit team.
And in fairness, Oklahoma has a fairly easy path to the championship. They take on a Big 12 team that always overperforms, but is honestly little brother to them. I think the record overall is 91-20.
91-20.
Oklahoma has just ran that series. And then next up, they play another Big 12 team that they have just historically dominated.
Yep.
K-State has been good in the last few years. Give them credit. Give them their flowers. They won the Big 12. All credit to them. But they're not ready for what the SEC has in there. I've got 4 teams from the SEC in my playoff for a reason, and every single one of them is fairly worthy of being there. I think every single one of them would win either the ACC or the Big 12.
I think both of our brackets are really telling about how much does a Cinderella story need to happen. How much, because the reason the 12-team playoff is happening is, first off, money. Obviously, the people in suits get more money when more people play in the playoffs. They're kind of undermining the regular season and making it all about the playoffs now, which I don't like. But another big reason is they want to give everyone a fair chance. They want group of 5 teams to have a fair chance to make the playoffs. And make the playoffs and even win the whole thing. People are saying give everyone a chance to win the whole thing, but let's be real here. Memphis, Liberty, none of the group of 5 teams, even if you get in there, you're not winning 3 straight games.
Georgia.
You're not winning 3 straight games against 3 very good Power 5 teams, Power 4 teams now. But you're just not doing that. So at what point is this just overkill? And should we go back to BCS, Maybe not that far back, but at least to a 4-team playoff. Or maybe even an 8-team.
Or one conversation that I loved the last couple of weeks is the potential of the group of 5 having their own NIT
For
playoff.
sure.
Give them a chance to win their own championship, and then throw that 12th Power 4 team that was deserving in. Mm-hmm. The first 2 teams that missed out in my bracket are a 9-3 Alabama, whose only losses were to 3 teams in the top 7 of this bracket, and then a 11-1 Utah, whose only loss was at Oklahoma State on this bracket, and they didn't make the Big 12 championship game because of their tiebreaker rules.
It's like, are you really gonna put Bama losing to Memphis and just a rating just over under, like just what are the chances, who's gonna win? Are you really gonna put Memphis beating Bama?
Exactly.
It's hard, and also like with making an NIT bracket or at least a bracket for the other conferences, it's like it's not disrespecting them. I mean, you look at just the money that's coming in. Like, look at the facilities of Memphis compared to the facilities of Georgia.
Right.
They're not playing the same sport.
Basketball has an NIT tournament.
Yeah, for sure. Like,
there's programs that cannot compete on the same level.
It's not the same sport. It's really not. It's it's called Division I football, but there's 135 teams.
Yeah,
or around 136 teams. Like, that's not a full sport. Everyone cannot compete at the same level.
Yeah, and you mentioned, do you think that Memphis could compete with an Alabama or a Utah or whoever that 12th team is?
Yeah.
We saw last year the committee put Alabama in over an undefeated Florida State conference champion. And I'm sorry, Florida State fans. I know I'm rubbing salt in the wound bringing this back up. But we've always said it's a team sport until Florida State lost their starting quarterback. And we said it's all about that guy with that action. Yeah. Alabama, Utah, all of the next 8 teams on this list in the top 20 would absolutely smoke Memphis if they were to play in a game to get that 12th spot.
Mm-hmm. And if it's a playoff game and there's that much on the line, no chance.
They don't have a chance.
Yeah, you're getting destroyed. And if you somehow pull that off, great. Next round, now you got to go play Oregon at home. Or, now you got to go to a bowl game and play Ohio State. It's like, there's just not a viable path,
Yeah, you're sending this team to the slaughter.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're going to now go into a overrated, underrated segment, but we both kind of already unanimously agreed that our overrated is USC by
University
by a large
of
margin.
Southern California.
Yes, not South Carolina. No hate to South Carolina. I got a buddy that's a South Carolina fan. You guys are all right for sure.
I
not
still
really
don't
all
think
right.
you're that good.
Yeah,
you're just
really
not
right.
overrated.
Yeah, you're just chill. I have no problem with you. I think we're going to smoke you in Norman this year.
Yeah.
But USC is who we're talking about.
Yeah, they've had generational talent at quarterback with Caleb Williams, and their first year they had a good year with him. No one understood the offense of what Lincoln Riley was doing or anything. They went 11-1, and then last year they still had generational talent, Heisman winner Caleb Williams, and they went 7-5. Yep. Lincoln Riley cannot have a good defense. This has held true since his time at Oklahoma, whether it was Mike Stoops at defensive coordinator, Ruffin McNeil, Alex Grinch went to USC with him and he still kept him. Whether it's whoever they have now, I think Benny Wiley as the strength and conditioning coach is an absolute awful hire for them. He has his team doing hot yoga and some cardio instead of hitting the weights. Absolutely no credit to them. They have an awful coaching staff there. And I think it's really going to show in the Big Ten this year. I think as bad as 7-5 was for the USC faithful, you need to get used to it because as long as Lincoln Riley's there, nothing's going to change. I think that you will still have a fairly good, really good offense this year. I think you'll have a top 20 offense averaging mid-30s per game. I just think that you're going to have a bottom 120 defense. And you're probably going to give up about 40 to 45 per game. I got USC going 5-7 this year.
I think you're also showing your card a lot trying to back out of the LSU game. Trying to get out of an SEC game. Like 2 years ago, last summer, 2 summers ago, OU Texas leaving, go to the SEC rumors. Lincoln Riley out, gone, instantly left, and terrified of the SEC.
Over this last summer, you saw Joe Castiglione. He didn't say it specifically, but at the SEC media days, he said all the coaches got on board with that SEC move, and the ones that didn't, they're not here anymore.
And newsflash, only one left. So he's talking about one person, but man, trying to back out of an LSU game. LSU, they're not top of the pack. They're not the elite SEC teams right now.
They're a good team.
They're
Don't
solid,
get it wrong.
But they're
not national contender.
Being terrified of LSU just really shows the cards. It starts to make a lot more sense on why you abandoned OU, which I say abandoned lightly because I'm glad they left now. I feel over the past year, it's kind of been I feel like it's starting to lean in Oklahoma's favor, the whole Lincoln Riley thing. Because at the beginning, it really looked like he took everything and he won kind of thing. But after this last year of USC failing and then showing his cards trying to lead the LSU thing, I'm like, oh, you got the better end of the deal.
Exactly. Sure. Oklahoma's got to feel great about it right now. Yep. You kind of got the prodigal son returns with Brent Venables. It was a tough situation the way he left to go to Clemson back in 2011, I think. But he's come home now. The first season was really rough with everything that was going on that year. He had a bounce back year 2 that everyone was happy with. And it's really exciting going into year 3 with the future with Brent Venables now.
For sure.
And USC, good luck to you. I wish your fans the best. And Rocky Road ice cream helps. But that's my best advice I can give to you. Find a comfort food, get used to it, because until Lincoln Riley's gone, you guys are going to be struggling.
For sure. So for underrated, I have Nebraska. I think they are a little underrated. Matt Rule's the head coach, and Matt Rule historically, the last 2 places he went, year 3 exploded. Year 3 at Baylor, they went, well, first off, his first year, it was like, I can't remember on the top of my head, but the first year he won like 3 or 4 games.
The first year,
the next
they were
year,
1-11.
1-11. And then the next year, I think they were 500. I think they were 6-6. Year after that, they won the Big 12. And right before that, he was a coach at, I'm blanking on the team. I think it was Temple. He was coached at Temple. And again, the third year, he won the conference. And, the year before that, it was by 500s. He goes like this. And so year 3, Matt Rule at Nebraska. Now you're giving him a Power 5 program. Year 3, it's exciting,
It's fun times there in Nebraska. They just got the best quarterback in the country, Dylan Raiola, 5-star. And there's a whole lot of people that are excited for that one.
I think they're underestimating Matt Rule a little bit just because now it's a Power 5 program. So, like, can he do it again? Baylor's a Power 5 program, but Baylor's the bottom of the Big 12. It's a little bit different than being the bottom of the Big 10, I think. So I think because the teams that Nebraska's going to be playing is obviously the Big 10, Ohio State, all those people.
Yeah.
So it's different, but I still think the year 3 is going to happen, and I think they're going to have a good bounce.
And I made my predictions earlier this week. I've got Nebraska going 7-5 or 8-4 on the year.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of Dylan Raiola. I think it'll be tough being a starting quarterback immediately. There will be some freshman struggles that he'll have to go to, especially playing Ohio State and some other powerhouse programs. But I think he's going to show a lot of potential, a lot of flash this year, and that Nebraska fans are really going to be given something to be excited about for the upcoming year. And then for what?
I was going to say Nebraska's win total right now is 6-5. It's some places 6-5. Some people will get it at 7-5. So I think that's an easy over, honestly. I think 6-5 for sure. I think over for sure. But, yeah.
And then I think that for my team, the team that I expect to overachieve the most this year is going to be Oregon State.
Wow.
Yeah, this is a team we haven't talked about at all.
I forgot about Oregon State at this point.
Oregon State and Washington State are still real, guys.
Go Cougars.
Yeah. They are the sole owners of the Pac-12.
Yeah.
They got abandoned.
Top dogs. Top
they
Pac-12
got abandoned
dogs,
this last year. They will have a conference championship game, and it will be those two. I will bet money on this year.
That's a bold take.
There's 2 teams in that conference this year, guys.
Is that actually what's happening?
Yeah.
Are they not in the Mountain West?
No, they're still a conference.
But they're just playing a Mountain West schedule.
The Pac-12 was given a 2-year conference realignment deal from the NCAA because of the quick nature of which all the Pac-12 teams disbanded. And so they have 2 years to either get up to 10 years or for them to leave to another conference.
Yeah, 10 teams.
And so during this time, they're still going to play a 12-team schedule. They will play teams from the Mountain West. They'll play a bunch of other teams. And they're going to be able to play their schedules. Oregon State may have a top 3 running back in the country this year, guys. Martinez was a freshman for them this last year, and he is an absolute beast. I'm so excited to watch his games. He will run around you, through you, jump over you. He will put you in the spin cycle. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch this year, guys. And Oregon State, if they have a Cinderella year and go 12-0 or something, you could see them in the playoff.
Wow. I'm trying to do research on that because I don't know. Is there actually going to be a Pac-2 championship game?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're still a conference.
Yeah, and they're used to playing a Power 5 schedule, and they're going to go down and play a Mountain West schedule, but
with Power 5 athletes.
Yeah, and so I've never even really thought about that. If they have that, if that situation pans out and they lose one game, go undefeated, that ruins everyone's bracket. Because no one's thinking about Oregon State and Washington State anymore.
Hey, let's be clear about this. We recognize the weak schedule. If you lose one game, you're probably out.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go undefeated, it's hard to leave you out.
Yep. It's also like where's the trip up spot? Obviously Washington State, the other team they play.
Yeah.
But you got Air Force, Boise State might be something right there, but there's not. You got Purdue too.
And let me ask you a question. Everyone's considered it to the Power 4 at this point with the Big 12, the SEC, the Big 10, and the ACC. Are we now considering the Pac-12 or the Pac-2 as a Group of 5 conference?
Group of 6?
Group of 6 now? Do they take the 12th seed and get the at-large spot with that?
Yep.
As the 5th conference champion that gets in?
I really hope, obviously I think it's a 10 teams is what you need for it to be a conference.
Yeah.
So they have that 2-year cushion. I think they're going to get it done. I think they're going to find 8 more teams and make it a conference. And then it'll just be a debate, is it a Power 5 team, Power 5 conference or not? I don't think it necessarily will be. I think they'll just have to grab Mountain West teams. I think all the teams that are in, especially the Big 10 and the SEC, aren't leaving because they can kind of see the future. And I think it's kind of inevitable in the next decade or so. I think it will turn into the NFL in a way, which I don't want to happen. But I would predict it turning into Big 10 versus SEC for the championship. But
yeah, and let me ask you this question. I can't remember his name, but the AD for the Big 12 conference as a whole has already stated that he wants to have teams from coast to coast throughout college football. What if Oregon State and Washington State join the Big 12?
Yeah. Yep.
That would put them at 16 teams, and they would be just like the SEC and the Big 10 in that regard.
Yeah, the Big 12 is really sticking out compared to the ACC. They're definitely trying a lot harder, and they're just doing the whole entire, everyone's switching different conferences and everything. They're handling it so much better than the ACC is. And so I can legitimately see them being the number 3 conference and even taking some of the ACC because Florida State and Clemson are also looking to leave, and they're looking at the Big 12. The Big 12's not out of the picture to get Florida State and Clemson. And the second that happens, they're the number 3.
They're locked up at the number 3.
And the second that happens, it's 3 conferences. And it's not even that far away, honestly, from the Big 10. I think, obviously, the Big 10 with Oregon, Ohio State, and Michigan, it's going to be hard for them to get passed up. But you combine everyone else, in the Big 12.
The Big 12 is a solid conference right there. You've got all of these teams. You've got about 6 or 7 really solid teams, especially if you have the addition of Florida State and Clemson, who would be the 2 top dogs. They are the Oklahoma and Texas of the Big 12 if they were to join. And they would give that brand awareness. But then you've also got Colorado with Deion Sanders at head coach. And don't get me wrong, I'm picking Colorado to go 5-7 on the year, maybe 6-6. I don't think they're ready for what the Big 12 is going to throw at them. But they do have the brand. This last year, they got multiple 5-star athletes. They got Dylan Edwards, a transfer K-State got Dylan Edwards, a transfer from Colorado. But they are recruiting at a really high level for Deion Sanders right now. They've got 2 great players in quarterback Shadir Sanders and star wide receiver and DB. I'm blanking on his name.
Who?
The star wide receiver and DB.
Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter, thank you. I don't know how I forgot his name. But he's one of the best athletes in the country. And Colorado could just be absolute must-watch football this year. Just for all the clickbait that you're going to see coming out of them, as well as just the star-studded potential that they have on their team.
Yeah, for me, it's a little bit harder to to ride the Colorado train. Obviously, everyone always talks about none of these coaches are unique, and I want a unique coach. Everyone says that. And then Deion Sanders shows up, and he is very, very unique, and then people don't like his uniqueness.
Deion does it his own way.
And so it's like, do you want a unique coach or not, I'm also on the board. I want all these coaches to be unique and stuff. And Deion's definitely unique, and I don't really care for him a ton. He's a decent coach, and he's fun and stuff. But man, the way he promotes and stuff, and just like the whole using the portal. Just statistically, I don't think it's going to work very well. I think there's Clemson going no portal, all recruiting high school, and then there's Colorado all portal and no high school. And I would still think Clemson's going to turn out better than they are in the long run because throwing just like players in there, and not having time to grow, like learn the place, and then just starting to play. I'm like, I just don't think it's going to win. I don't think it's going to go very well.
It's not winning football.
And as Dan Lanning said before he played Colorado last year, he said they're fighting for clicks and we're fighting for wins.
Yeah.
And so, I don't think Colorado's going to do very well in the Big 12, at least for the foreseeable future, at least for the next few years, until they build a foundation with high school recruits.
I honestly, Colorado is going to get a lot of love from the media and everyone else.
For sure.
And they've got some big names there. You've got Deion Sanders, and he's going to get the love. But I don't think Colorado will have success until Deion's gone.
Mm-hmm.
I think he makes it way too much about himself, and he has to. For recruiting at Colorado, you don't have brand, you don't have location, you don't have anything. So he uses himself to recruit.
Yep.
But that's not a recipe for success. I don't think they'll have success until he's gone.
Yeah,
I don't know that they'll have success after that either. But
that people talking about Colorado, like, oh, are they going to win the Big 12 this year? Dude, shut up, dude. Stephen A. Smith over here, all those people that, they're sports, they talk about sports, but they don't know college football, So all the hype comes to Colorado and like, are they going to win the championship? Dude.
All they say is to get clicks.
Yep, just clicks.
Now, you may think we're crazy. You may agree with us. But we're actually saying what we believe, and this is not just for clicks.
Yeah. Dude, Oregon became my second favorite team after that.
Oh, my gosh.
After they beat down.
Oh, I was so upset they let them score at the end.
Here's the clip right here.
Today, we talk with our pads. You talk with your helmet, right? Every moment. The Cinderella story is over, man. Right? They're fighting for clicks, we're fighting for wins. There's a difference, right? There's a difference, right? This game ain't going to be played in Hollywood, it's going to be played on the grass, right? It's going to be played on the grass. Let's go.
That's the clip I'm talking about. That's why that's why Dan Lanning in Oregon is like one of my favorite teams now, just because of that one quote and the whole game. Colorado was
the game and Dylan Gabriel.
Colorado was stomping on the O when they walked in, and they were talking dude, they're looking around at the massive stadium like, dude, this is nothing. And then they got absolutely just wiped. I love that game.
We didn't even talk about week 0.
Oh, shoot. Dude, we have all-star game. We got Georgia Tech, Florida State playing tomorrow. We have college football tomorrow, Eli.
Come on.
It's crazy.
College football is back.
Florida State, Georgia Tech. You're going to be seeing this. It's already going to be happening because it's going to take so long to edit this. But they're going to play, and Florida State's going to beat Georgia Tech.
It's going to happen. It's not going to be a great game.
I think it's going to cover, too. 12.5 is the spread. Florida State's going to cover that.
By at least 20, I think.
It's in Dublin, which, what the heck? This is America's sport. I don't know what we're doing
Hey, hold on now. I love that Dublin, Ireland.
I don't know about that, dude.
Have you seen the stadium? It's a pro soccer stadium.
Yeah, it's soccer.
It's easily one of the coolest stadiums.
Don't get me started on soccer.
In.
Don't get me started on soccer.
No, not hyping up soccer. Just an awesome stadium.
It is called soccer, by the way, as well.
Yeah, it's not football.
I don't know if we have any European viewers. I would assume we don't. And if we do, I don't know what you're doing watching this.
I mean, I hope you stay watching.
Yeah, stay watching us, but what the heck?
So, Florida State over Georgia Tech.
Florida State's getting it done.
Got them by like 20.
Who else we got playing? Hang on, let's look at the... we have... Dude, Hawaii. We got a night game.
Hawaii, Delaware State at
Delaware State.
Delaware State missed their flight this week and is trying to make it there right now. So
just because of that, Hawaii's covering. Wait, is their favorite, right? Hawaii's favorite.
I
right?
don't know. I'm gonna take Hawaii.
Yeah. I mean, if you're getting there with no sleep on a plane, trying to play the powerhouse Hawaii.
That's brutal.
Hawaii's, I'm going to be honest, Hawaii is one of my favorite logos. They have a pretty cool logo. They're called the Rainbow Warriors. Obviously, in this day and age, being called the Rainbow Warriors, it's a little sus, it's a little odd. I'm going to be honest here.
It's different.
But, if it was in the 90s or 80s, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
then you got Montana State at New Mexico in the afternoon.
Great matchup.
Give me New Mexico. I don't know why. I love traveling there. The mountains are pretty cool there. I enjoyed it. But I've never even heard of Montana State, or actually I've never watched one of their games. But I'm not picking them to win now. I what have they ever won before? And then SMU at Nevada. SMU joined the ACC this year.
Shoot. We have 2 Power 5 teams playing then. Right?
We do.
We have 3, Georgia Tech.
Yeah, Georgia Tech's ACC.
Dude, week 0 is an amazing week. I'm very excited to watch football.
Yeah, Florida State, Georgia Tech. That's an ACC matchup.
Oh, it is. There's gonna be ACC standings after week 0 because that's a matchup,
That's
isn't it?
crazy.
I got the spread on Hawaii Delaware State. It's Hawaii minus 39.5.
All right.
So,
well, I think we're both gonna.
I'm going the over. I'm gonna go the over there.
I'm gonna say the under.
All right. That concludes our first podcast. We covered week 0 briefly. We gave you our conference champions. We gave us our playoff picks, and just a little bit of talk about USC and Nebraska, our overrated and underrated teams of the year.
Yeah, we walked you through all of our predictions for the season, what to watch for, some big names that you think could really show out, or some big games that could really be a letdown. And we hope that you guys enjoyed the show. We hope that you guys were able to learn a little bit about college football. And maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Let us know down in the comments so that we can have a conversation about it. We love talking college football.
For sure.
We'd love to talk with you guys. And
like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. That means a lot to us.
All right. Have fun time watching week 0, guys.
Yep.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.